fewer tools to solve problems in both your own singing and in your teaching. Okay? So, let's start by talking about your first assignment in pedagogy, which is you have to teach a voice student. Grad students don't answer. Your first time. What do you do to prepare for your first voice lesson? You never taught anybody before in your life. Don't answer TAs. MMs can answer and Pedageek can answer. Well, hi, Adam. Welcome to class.
My pain told me I was in here. I didn't.
That's okay. Okay. You've never seen your student before in your life. You've been taking pedagogy. Dr. Yarrington has given you an entire list of things to do. What are you going to do first?
I guess find a series of warm-ups so you can get to know the voice. Because, I mean, every voice is different.
Okay. Kelly?
I was thinking maybe get to know the student on more of a personal level, like ask them why it is that they want to learn voice.
Okay.
And think of it.
Okay.
And kind of go from there.
All right. Let's do Hillary then Bookie. Hillary?
Figure out what kind of singing experience they have in the past.
Do you
like
do that by
choir
vocalizing
singing.
them or asking them questions?
Ask them questions and then vocalize them. See
Okay.
what they're comfortable with,
All right.
what you think you can work on.
All right. Bookie?
Yeah, sort of similar. I would determine exactly what questions I need to ask and what kind of vocalizing, if any, I need to do to get the information that I need to have to get a picture of, what goals we need to set and how to proceed with them.
All right. All right. Sarah?
Yeah, I had my first lesson yesterday with my student,
Yeah.
and it was kind of scary for me, and so I've never taught anyone before, but I mean, I pretty much did. I talked to them about what they're comfortable with, their musical background and stuff like that, and then I warmed them up to see what their voice type was like and what they would be able to do, and I gave them, a couple of art songs.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody? Okay.
I think maybe one of the more important things to do to prepare before you meet your student is to keep an open mind about what they might be like and what they might sound like and where they want to go with this.
Very good. Yes, sir.
Ask them what they like and do not like about their own voice.
What's the purpose of that?
To learn more about their learning style and preference and just their own opinions and interpretation about their own voice.
How many of you, when you entered your first voice lesson, entered with no agenda? No list? Yeah, because you talked to me as well.
Okay, I'm going to be honest.
Certainly not my
I
first
did not
one.
know. When I taught my first lesson in Orlando, I went in scared out of my mind, having absolutely no idea what I was going to do.
But see, that in and of itself becomes an agenda.
Yeah.
How many of you could trust yourself enough, based on where you are right now in your own singing experience, physically, musically, and technically, to go into a 30-minute voice lesson with nothing on your pad, and all you're going to do is vocalize and watch and ask a series of questions to get to know them? Does that frighten you? Yes, some of you do.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because when we take pedagogy, what we do when we go from this classroom to the studio to put it into practice is we don't trust our instincts. Of course you're not going to trust your instincts right now. You know what they are. I haven't even opened the window yet. What am I looking for? What am I listening for? But the hardest thing for the teacher fellows to do this past summer at EPI was, and they've all been teaching, all 5 of them, when I said, don't go in with any agenda. Talk to them, start vocalizing them, listen and watch. Don't think, just observe. Then, when you start observing, listen to your body. When they start singing, you'll start reacting, even if you're just sitting there like this with poker face on, because you're going to start to see at various parts of their range where their physical issues and non-issues might be. Then take a minute, and this is how you get to know their learning style and their insecurities. The very first question I always ask is, what do you like about your voice? I'm not wasting time, because this is what will happen. 9 out of 10 will say, well, I don't know, I like anything. And you say, okay, then why do you want to sing? Yeah, then why do you want to sing? Because the essence of that question is, this is an art form that is emotive and creative, and that situates itself in the physical body and in the emotional body. And 9 times out of 10, some of them will start telling you what they don't like. And you said, don't tell me what you don't like. I want to hear what you do like. For some, they see answering that question as a matter of ego. It's not a matter of ego to inventory the things that you like about the thing that you want to do for a living your entire life. It's also a matter of, if you keep inventorying yourself like this, these will be the qualities you lead with when the room doesn't behave, the pianist doesn't behave, and the voice doesn't behave. Or you can entertain the things that you don't like. So I'll vocalize them again some more, and I'll say, what do you not like about your voice? And they'll verbalize that. From that, and my own observations, I can then begin to problem solve at the basic level with them. Now, what are you going to do the first time you go in there? You've studied an entire chapter on balanced onsets and breath support. They don't have any breath support.
I'm going to take my little larynx that I built, and I'm going to show them all the pieces, parts in there, and I'm going to describe scientifically. This is what pedagogy makes me want to do.
Okay.
Describe scientifically cause to effect.
That's fair.
Exactly what's moving. You're breathy. This is why. Your arytenoids aren't, your cords aren't adducting properly or like whatever.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Kelly?
Something I did in my lesson yesterday with my students that after I had her initially vocalize, I was kind of just watching to see what different things that we need to work on. I think and each week we're going to add a layer, and this week was posture, that we're going to fix her posture and see how that affects the voice. And I asked her, like, how did that feel compared to the first time you sang through the exercise? Did it feel easier? Did it feel harder? And then I kind of explained why. And then I think next week we're going to talk about breath.
So you made your agenda, but is your agenda based on what you learned in the class, or is your agenda based on what you observed in the student?
It's based on what I saw in her.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
I don't know. When I see problems, I love to take them to each opposite extreme, and then have them find the middle ground. Because I like to trust that whoever I'm with is generally going to be smart enough they'll be able to find it if they see the opposite ends.
Okay. And that's a method. All of these things are viable. You've got to be flexible in your method, though, because if you take a scared person to an extreme, they will probably fall out and either pee or cry all over themselves. But you can imagine that if you take a wallflower to an extreme, because the voice is a very personal, very emotional thing. If I take Boogie and say, Boogie, we're going to run up and down the hall and sing scales, 90 miles an hour, Boogie looking like, so because her personality in singing, now when she gets on stage, she just drops it off. But she gets in that studio, sometimes she's like, wait a minute, I don't trust you. But I can read that. If I have a student that has an answer that tells me, I don't like the way my high notes feel, or I can't feel my air, or whatever, that tells me there's a physical insecurity in there that if I take them to an extreme might work, might not. But that is also a viable method. Anybody else?
Well, one of the things I noticed in my lesson this week with Fun Bobby, I like to call her, but she is an alto and choir and has no confidence in her higher range. And it's there, the pieces are there, they're just not put together. So one of the goals that we kind of set, because we talked about goals and what she wants to do in this process, and one of the goals that we set was for her to explore that, and by means of doing that, I asked her if she was comfortable singing songs like that, and she was fine with it, so.
Okay, and that's another good method. The purpose of these discussions is not to teach you how to teach like me. It's to give you some tools to develop your own path based on your own journey and what you know about anatomy, music, and all of that. So this is not for me to tell you how I teach a particular aspect. It's to teach you how to problem solve based on the tools in your tool belt. And so in a situation like that, where you're having someone explore and experiment with things that they like, what you're doing is beginning to create in them a trust that this is a two-way process. We're on a team together. You don't walk into my studio, kiss the ring, and I give you information. You may study. You may study. See. Empathy and vocal training is a two-way street. I pay attention to you. I don't think about the Shih Tzus or the grocery list. I pay attention to you. I watch you. When I'm watching you, I see things in you, and I figure out how to describe them in such a way that it resonates with you. Then you get excited, and the empathy comes back to me. The next thing you know, David Walker said today, I didn't feel like I've been in here for an hour. It's a two-way street. If your philosophy with your students is we are in this together, then you will stay in them, read them. You won't get frustrated when they don't receive it well, because sometimes you'll say something, you'll read them and you'll say something, and they'll go, Harlan, for the first 4 lessons I taught him, spit out like this. But if you will watch them and not immediately go, oh crap, I don't know what I'm talking about, oh my God, they hate me, I'm terrible, I need to take out all my degrees and show them I know what I'm doing. If you will relax and read them again, it will eventually come to you in such a way that suits their body, their style, all those things. You have to, in a sense, not put aside your knowledge, you have to put aside your agenda so that you don't hit every student with the same bat. I have heard many teachers say to me, people with jobs say, I have one way to say this, and if the student doesn't get it, it's their problem. Guess what I think? You're going to have a miserable career if that's your philosophy. Yeah. You want to know how I teach 24 people a week? Because it's fun, because I never at one time just say, I'm just going to teach you all the same way. I'm constantly plugged into you guys. And because of that, I'm watching, and the more things I discover about you and my own singing when I'm practicing, that I bring all of that into the room, and I scarcely notice that I'm teaching as much, because it's a creative process for the teacher as well as the student. That's the thing about pedagogy. If your pedagogy sits in the realm of science, and there's no creativity and art that comes to bear with that results in a product you can put on stage that people will actually pay for, because that's the job, then you're going to be largely unfulfilled in this. And when someone comes across your studio way that has an issue that you have not put down on your little legal pad, and you try to hit them with the same plug that you hit everybody else, and they do a Harlan on you, they do a Harlan on you, you're going to go home upset and questioning what you do. And guess what that does? That surfaces on your body.
Yeah.
And they pick up on it, and they get more frustrated, and it's a vicious cycle. And then you don't want to love teaching anymore because it's not an art form. So, part of the pedagogy issue is figuring out, your job is not to sit in your pedagogy class and question. Your job is to learn and figure out whether that information for you is something that you can explain and physicalize in a viable way, or is it one of those things I call ukul? Formants are ukul. Do I think of formants and format tuning when I'm singing? God, I hope not. Because I'm going to be doing algebra problems the whole time I'm on stage. But there is a physical phenomenon, an acoustic phenomenon in singing. We call it overtones or ring. It has a sound and it has a sensation. And once you learn to identify that sound and that sensation, if you can get your student and yourself to focus on that sensation, the formants happen.
Amen.
Formants are basically every vowel position in an ideal position where a ring happens. There's a big chart with a head. And it's like the head's all sectioned off in all these different formats. I saw it one time, I went, oh, Heavenly Father. How can you think about, perhaps you're the one human in here that can think about formants and then get on stage and be a real truthful Rigoletto. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But when you're in pedagogy class and you're receiving information, don't snark up because he or she says something that you don't agree with. Figure out how you're going to take it and put it into something that's practical, something that's just cool to look at, but probably not going to talk about it with your students because it makes them to you or yourself. Or, I'm not going to do that this way. All right, so let me tell you the Harlan story, and then we're going to have some discussion about your travails this week in your own practice. Harlan came into my studio, sit him down on the bolster, never been in one in his life. Hi, Dr. Dean. Bye, Dr. Dean. There's everything he needs to know. Harlan, because this is going to lead us, I have 2 assignments for you this week. One is a pyramid assignment, and one is to reflect on your past vocal experiences. Some of Harlan's vocal experiences have been good, some have been less than positive. Harlan is also a literalist. You have to say things exactly as you mean them. That means that he will not respond to innuendo, no bubbles, no butterflies, no feel like a light breeze, none of that. He's just going to look at you like you're retarded if you say that. He's a literalist who's had some good experiences and some bad experiences. He's a very blunt personality. He sits down on the bolster, and I say, just sing these. I do what I do. Just sing these scales. Don't worry about the voices. Let me watch. He starts to sing. He goes, he's not even phonating because the whole time he's sitting on that bolster going, what the heck? We spent 3 lessons where I would say to him, Harlan, relax. Let me read you. Try it as you receive it, and I'll change the language if you don't receive it. My demeanor the whole time he's over there doing this, and I consciously modulate myself when agitation arises in the studio because it's a spirit empathy thing. If I start getting ratcheted up, we're no longer on the same team. I'm against him because I'm responding to his agitation. His agitation is normal, given all the things I now know about him. He's uncomfortable. So I modulate my energy back and I keep reading him. In the middle of the night before his 4th lesson, this happens a lot, I don't know why, but I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I had an epiphany about it. And I thought, okay. And Ezekiel and all them kept saying, just trust her, just give her some time, trust her, stop. And I don't know if this is going to work, I don't know. 4th lesson, I come in, and he sits down on the bolster. I said, how long did you play saxophone? He said, 15 years. I said, how long have you been singing? He says, 1.5 years. Now, what might my conclusion be from that? He has a greater physical muscle memory association to the saxophone than he does to singing. Now, when he was wiggling, he kept stopping his air right here prior to onset to try to control the onset. I said, Harlan, when you play saxophone, do you stop the air anywhere in your throat prior to the reed? Well, no. And I went, the tone's the reed. And he literally went, oh. You in that first semester when you got here, you know that turning point where all of a sudden all the crap came off of him and he relaxed and became more forgiving of himself. It happened right around that time. Because not only did I give him something physical that he could associate with his singing now that he knew, but I was showing him that I was on his team. Mm-hmm. This is a team effort to build this because it's all physical and it's all emotional as well as technical. All right. So before we have a brief discussion, here are your two assignments. One of the first things, if you're going to consider what you want to cover when you first meet a student broadly, you have to consider what you consider to be the foundations of good technique. All right. I love periods. Don't you know? All right. So this is going to be your philosophy of teaching or technique pyramid. Fellas have already done this and some of others. All right. Let me give you an example so it doesn't make you all befuddled. The bottom of the pyramid is something that I'm physically or technically or whatever. It's going to be something that I see as a key foundational thing you have to learn to do before you can do all the other fun stuff. Because if that's not there, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. So, I'm not going to go into the studio the very first day and start working on trills and messa di voce if they don't know what their body feels like and can tell the difference between air pressure and muscular tension. Mm-hmm. If you are not hurt in the heat of singing, you cannot differentiate the difference between air pressure, which produces ring pressure, and muscular tension. It all feels like pressure. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I want to do in my world is to get them bodily aware. Now, that's physically the main thing, so I could say my first foundational thing for me is going to be body and breath awareness. Now look at the cool thing in this. I can't do this very fast. If this pyramid becomes not what I'm going to do, but what I think stabilizes the voice, but it's related to that, and I do a second pyramid over here that says, in the freshman year of singing, what is the one technical, physical thing that I think is more important to establish in a singer? Breath and body awareness is going to help this thing, but what is a technique thing? What is something in the anatomy that I want to happen? In my world, the very first thing I want to do is teach them how to stabilize the larynx. Because when the larynx is singing classically in opera, it drops to a certain pitch position in a neutral throat and it floats. When you are belting, it drops to a pitch position and it will not float. Because that's what makes the belt sound. Muscles on either side of the larynx hold it still. The higher you go, what it does is it creates a lift and a tilt that keeps the belt sound, but the float keeps it from popping into that classical voice. That's what gives it the belt quality. But both of those mean that I have to let the larynx go to where it's going to go and do the thing it's going to do to create the thing I want it to create. You understand? Mm-hmm. So this thing that I want to do when they first get in here makes this thing happen. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is where your science and anatomy meet your art and your physicality. What you're learning by building a larynx and by studying your pedagogy books is, what are the principles of technique that I want to consolidate in my students in their freshman year? What do I want to do after that? What do I want to do after that? I want the anatomy to do this, 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 and this. Then, how do I make stuff that's inside the larynx and the body? If this is my principle here, how do I physicalize something to make this happen? You get me? You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is where pedagogy and art meet, and creativity meet, and teaching. And your job is to figure that out this week for yourself. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I want you to do 2 pyramids. Pyramid number 1 is, what would you do with your students their first semester if they had no awareness of singing at all? They could just sing. They don't know jack o' rum about technique. What is the second thing that you would do? What is the third thing? This top thing is going to be more of those higher musical processes and things that you need to do in order to do cool stuff like staccato. Here's the thing, though. It's going to cause you to reevaluate this. Nothing that you write above, if you write something above here and your way of making this happen by teaching screws this up, you've got to either reconsider where this next thing sits on the pyramid or how you teach it. You understand? Yeah. So the pyramid is great because it causes you to consider at every level, not necessarily whether the thing is viable, but maybe the way you teach the thing is not allowing what you say below to happen. If you're teaching placement, and your goal is to keep the throat neutral so that laryngeal stability happens in whatever thing you're doing, that means that the throat is neutral, and you teach placement by either speaking or modeling this, you've just taken back the neutral throat that gave you the stabilized larynx. Mm-hmm. And this leads me to the next thing. Your modeling is almost more powerful than your words because of physical empathy. That's why choral directors have the reactions in their choir that they have, because we react more strongly to modeling than we do to what we say. Okay? Some of your students will not, but many of them will. So this is your first experiment. Your second assignment is I want you to think about 2 things, and we'll talk about them next time. What has your past experience been like with teachers? Now, this is not a condemnation hour, but you carry forward the baggage of your past. Mm-hmm. The bags can be good, the bags can be bad. But you carry that forward not only in your mind, but in your spirit and in your body. And it will cause you to form opinions when pushed to do certain things that either bring up bad memories, good memories, or out of your comfort zone. Your students will be the same way. So assessing your past experiences. What were the personalities of your teachers like? What was the eye engagement? What was the technical advice? Was it effective? Were they better at coaching musical things than technique? Were they good at both? Were they good performers? Did they try to perform? Were they young? Did they sing? It's not important that you be a world-class performer. It's important because as a singer, if you play with your voice, your empathy grows and you can be a better teacher. If you say to me, you're 35 years old, and say, I don't have time to perform, I don't have time to sing, then you have just shut off 75% of your creative outlet for being a better teacher. You have to feel it in order to teach it. That's how I can teach different voice types. I don't have to be a tenor. I know what it feels like. I know what a bass feels like when they're posturing in front of me. So that's your second assignment. Consider your past. Then your third thing that goes along with that second assignment is I want you to write down for me the things that you think make a beautiful voice. Okay? What to you makes a beautiful voice? Now these 3 things are important because language is important, terminology is important. And if, you know, how many times I teach workshops where people get really fixated on, well, this is my head voice, and this is my mixed voice, and this is my this voice, and this is my that voice. Terminology will cause them to react. Your terminology about what you describe as a beautiful voice, this is a voice that you would like to listen to and pay money for, is going to impact your teaching and how you get those things to come out, okay? I want to hear your adjectives. So, I open the floor for hiccups and discussions. Okay. Anything this week, it doesn't have to be, because we only have 15 minutes and we'll get to be more specific with our discussion, but is there anything this week that's a burning thing in your mind from your practice? Classes, on tape.
Okay, so my voice student comes from a background of singing like just gospel music or just pop radio tunes and things like that. So my biggest thing has been trying to figure out, we haven't had our first lesson yet, but I'm trying to figure out how to approach that first lesson, because obviously I'm a classical musician, so I think in terms of singing opera or art songs, things like that. So how do I approach her and bring her to a voice lesson without trying to make her a classical opera singer?
Very good question. Is there any element of your voice that if you took style away and volume demands, there would be the essence of just natural voice there?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, what is that in my terminology?
Baseline.
Yeah.
Baseline. So what in my terminology I call baseline voice, which is the voice that we find on the bolster, is your natural unmimicked voice. Anytime you've had someone exposed to style, you have to get them exposed to their natural voice with no style in it, just their voice. So they won't mimic, or they won't cross styles inappropriately. So let's take Hector, for example. Pianist, not a singer, has pitch, he's not tone deaf. The only people I can't teach are tone deaf. That's because they're missing a connection, brain, ear, nerve connection to the throat. Can't do anything about that. Dr. D said, you have 5 minutes, go. I vocalized him, I watched him, I didn't ask a question. I just vocalized and watched him. And then I said, Hector, speak an E. He said, E, because he had a Latin E like this. I said, do you feel the sides of your tongue touch your top teeth and make a U? He went, E. E. And the minute he felt the tongue, he let go of the lips. Now I said, I want you to blow through the E like this. He did. I said, you feel where that air is hitting your hard palate right there? And he blew and I did this. He said, yes. I said, I'm going to play this scale, and what I want you to do is I want you to blow as I play. So I went boo-dee-da-da, and he went as I played the scale. And I said, don't choreograph the air to what you hear. Keep the air steady. And I did it 2 or 3 times, and he said, okay. And I said, now, I want you to sing, but I want you to replicate the sensation. Don't listen to the sound. The voice that he sang with when he got into his heart, and all of a sudden it went out in front of him, and he didn't do anything but concentrate on that physical target. That was his baseline sound. That's how fast it can happen. You want to teach too many things.
Yes.
What if, this is a physical activity, what if you taught them one physical or acoustic principle on that lesson that moved the voice into a way where they could feel and didn't have to control it by listening? Would that be considered a success?
Yes.
Yeah. That's how I can change people fast. I'm not a genius. Believe me.
Well.
I'm much smarter than you. What I'm doing is not rocket science. I want you guys to do this because I need more people doing this. You just have to take the stuff you learn in pedagogy and the stuff you do in your own practice and up here, this list up here, and you've got to learn to compress. Here's the example I'll use. You got the flu, your head hurts, your stomach hurts, you got a fever, you got muscle aches. You go to the doctor says, I'm going to give you medicine for this one, this one, this one, and this one. How about one medicine for the flu? Takes care of all of it. Can you take 4 technical ideas and compress them down into one physical thought and all 4 happen and you just got them hooked into one? That's how you make changes. Because what will happen with that young lady is if that's all you do, she will emotionally have a reaction to that thing that she feels. That's the beautiful thing about Ring, is it has a sympathetic vibration in both the singer and the audience. That's why when you make that sound like that, and you stay in that sound, the audience doesn't take your inventory. You might splat a note wide open, as long as you don't flinch, they're like, because they're having an emotional and physical reaction to what you're doing. Keep it simple. Compress your ideas. What else? Does the change in the acoustics of the room impact your practice?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because you're listening to yourself?
It shouldn't, but
It shouldn't, yes.
I got an assignment for you. I got an assignment for you. I want you to find one, if you don't study with me, find one physicalization, not oral, but physical sensation of your technique. And I want you to go into the Wenger unit this week for 5 minutes. And I want you to feel that one physical thing, whether it's resonance pressure in your face or muscular stretch as you breathe in and maintaining that, or posture, or whatever that you want to feel. I don't care. Find one physical thing to feel. Sit in there and sing, or stand and sing scales, and just feel that one thing and start the acoustic on the dead acoustic. Then gradually bump it up and keep feeling, don't listen. Keep feeling, don't listen. Bump it, and eventually end up in the wettest acoustic you can have in that room.
Where are we doing this?
I want you to do this, and the Wenger units. Because the Wenger units, you can push.
What is that?
They're
practice.
Oh! You can push a button and it goes from
I was with you, girl.
concert
I was with
to- Yeah, the Wenger units. Because it has a variable acoustic setting. Because I want you to do an experiment on whether or not listening more than feeling can benefit you in a changing acoustic. Then, to be specific to you, if you, as the acoustic changes and from one to the other, your voice changes, not acoustically, but in terms of how you feel it, I want you to ask yourself why. If you could put yourself on a physical sensation like air pressure or posture or whatever you want to use, and then you change the acoustic and suddenly that sensation lessens, what does that mean for you individually? I want you to do an experiment. I want you to tell me what you think about that. Okay? What else before we bolt today? You cannot, if you are empathetic and you are watching people and you're working on their technique, you won't hurt them. Voice teachers fear damaging people. At the center of that fear is this statement: the voice is fragile. It is not fragile. If it were, now that doesn't mean you can go out there and run into a truck with your throat and all's going to come. But what it means is this: when building the voice with the sense, paying attention to acoustics and the things that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, when building the voice will get stronger, and it will get stronger in a way that you can use it on a daily basis without any adverse effects. That being said, you will be able to take more chances with your musicality and not hurt yourself. But if you lead with the idea that your voice is fragile, you're always going to hold it. You're always going to treat it like a Fabergé egg, and you are never fully going to experience the boundaries of your physicality. I'm not talking about volume. I'm not talking about screaming your head off. I'm talking about where can your body go fully to support your sound. Your voice cannot go any further than your body and head can support. It's not about the strength of this, because guess what? That's the little big thing. You cannot go any further than your head and your body can support. But if you start practicing, focusing on some of these things that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, and you start to feel it get stronger, then you're going to be able to experiment more fearlessly without damage, because you are working with your anatomy and not against it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, because that's crazy that you said that, because that made me think about last summer when I was doing Figaro in Indiana, and I was texting you like, oh, I have 3 full dress rehearsals and 3 performances. How am I going to do it? I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. But you said you're stronger than you think. Like just go out there and do it, and you're going to get through it. And it was so crazy because I was feeling tired before that statement. Like I was like, I'm fatigued. I'm not going to make it. But then after you said that, like something just adjusted, and I was all of a sudden Superman, and I could do things that I wasn't expecting myself to do, and I felt great.
It's because this feeds all of this. Your technique when you step, this is the last thing I'm going to say until we meet again. When you step on stage to sing, whatever technique is in your muscle memory is there. If you turn your thoughts to music and creative and emotional, the technique will reach a higher level. If you walk out on stage and you worry about your technique or your fatigue, your technique will actually not function well. And that's going to be good because you guys are going to develop as singers all your life. Once you put it into your body in rehearsal, don't monitor it when you get on stage. Rename your physical sensations of technique for emotive sensations. That way the technique sensations become the creative. They're not a separate act. And you will be less likely to take your inventory and monitor your technique when you get on stage, which, by the way, sucks. And surfaces in an empathetic way that's not pleasant. Okay. We probably need to go. Do you guys have any questions before we stop? Okay, so this will get big picture discussion based and that sort of thing, and I'm going to let you guys guide some of the topics, but I wanted to give you a framework in which to put all of these things you're receiving both in pedagogy and in here. You've got to have some tools to know what your skills are. Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, Deacle.
You're welcome.